And hello, you absolute lovelies. I'm just walking out of Project Hail Mary for the second time. I wanted to film my long-form review after my second viewing because the feelings I felt, the depth and variety of feelings I felt after the first viewing, I really wanted to make sure that was just what the film elicited, because this was such a highly anticipated experience. I did want to ensure that the words that I'm going to say that are probably going to sound hyperbolic are the feeling of the film, and that is that it gives me something that is so rare in a movie. Some movies give you sadness, some movies give you comedy, some movies give you nostalgia. This gives me appreciation. Like the word I keep thinking when I think of this film is it gives me just hope and appreciation for humanity. And I love when a movie can change your language around what art can do. And honestly, I think a lot of the filmmakers that made this are responsible for many times I've felt that. And I'm going to break it all down. I want to talk about the movie as a whole, and then I want to talk about Lord Miller's work and how it tends to do that for me, about Ryan Gosling's work, and how I tend to feel new depths of emotions that I thought I'd kind of wrangled before. Drew Goddard, Andy Weir, whose book I've got to read. I'm going to talk in sections, but to talk about the movie itself, this is a movie that is that rare bit of optimistic sci-fi that doesn't feel like its earnesty sacrifices its intelligence. It's also a movie that is about thriving and overcoming and persevering. It's a movie about what the best of our humanity can be, which is to constantly learn, to constantly evolve, to constantly want to better ourselves, but also to not do that alone. This is a movie about brotherhood. This is a movie about connection. And I love, especially on second viewing, to make sure like the things I felt were how I felt walking out. There's this beautiful relationship with everyone that our lead, Ryan Gosling, interacts with, that all bring out different elements of him, that all beautifully land in the third act. I think the third act works for me even better the second time because there's so much setting up for that payoff that has to work in order for the payoff to truly land. And dynamic-wise, let's talk acting. Ryan Gosling, in my opinion, is one of the most versatile actors working right now, in that he is always consistently charming. He is always full of so much life, but he can do incredible comedy like The Nice Guys. He can do incredible depth of loss and passionate mourning like in Blue Valentine or Half of the Notebook, depending on which one part you're watching. But in summation, there's just always so much of him that is just willing to give. And here, this feels like a culmination of that. This is so much of the Lars and the Real Girl earnestness meets some of the beautiful depth that we get to see in Blue Valentine, meets, like I said, the Nice Guys humor, but it all works in this one character in a way that is so connecting. It's so wonderful, and it has to, because his connection to Sandra Hüller is so important, because Sandra Hüller has to basically be emotionally distant in order to make very hard decisions. And I love the government not being named, by the way, because then our biases towards our certain governments isn't like, oh, I hate that government. It allows it to be a neutral, let's try to fix things together while acknowledging the faults of humanity. But she has this incredible scene. I'm just going to say it's a karaoke scene. And the warmth of that scene, and she picked the song herself, like Sandra the actress picked this song, and it changes her dynamic for the rest of the film. And in movies, I love that trope of like a karaoke scene either changing the course of the film, changing your view of a character. There's something about the honesty of karaoke, and here, her voice, and it's live to tape. I watched my interviews with them, I found out all this great stuff, but it's just so real, and it changes everything. And that keeps happening in the film. There's so many moments that like dynamics just change. His relationship with Carl of the bear, his relationship with Rocky. Let's talk about Rocky. Okay, so Rocky's in the trailer. A lot of people got a little upset that Rocky's in the trailer. It's a buddy movie. You gotta show the buddy. I haven't read the book, but I don't understand people that are mad they showed Rocky. It's a buddy film. Rocky is a puppet. Rocky is real. Rocky is James Ortiz. James Ortiz was brought on as the puppeteer and then was so good at being Rocky, he became Rocky. He's the voice. He is Rocky. He's on set letting that dynamic be real, and his relationship with Ryan Gosling and the relationship you get to feel from them is so special. The Rockettes, Rockefellers, and Rocketeers that were the puppeteers of Rocky, this masterful job that uses a little bit of CGI like Jurassic Park did. Like, it's a blend of visual effects, practical effects to give us a very real relationship. And one's an engineer, one's a molecular scientist. And so you've got these two smart, capable, empathetic beings, one of which is a human and one is a literal rock creature, and you care about them both because the movie does such a good job letting you feel and letting you invest. And all we're trying to do as a species is love and live and survive. And this movie captures that with a not human that you care as much about as the human. And it's a magic trick. I don't know how they do it. So that's the acting bundle. There's great performances from everyone. I can even do a video about Milana. The movie's great. Acting. I do want to say, directing. What Phil Lord and Chris Miller do is reinvent themselves, and for me, reinvent what I love about movies. They changed what metamodernism could be for me with 21 Jump Street. They taught quantum theory to kids with SpiderVerse, and they elevated and changed my favorite character in fiction of all time, Spider-Man. Like, how do you improve upon Spider-Man? Ask those guys. They managed. So the expectations for this being their next film couldn't have been higher. And then I hear the Andy Weir book is the greatest thing ever as soon as they are announced with this. We did an Across the Spider-Verse Oscar campaign together, and they mentioned this book. And from that moment on, I just heard this is the greatest sci-fi book. And then I found out it's the guy from The Martian. I love The Martian. So I'm invested because Andy Weir, I haven't read the book, but I hear legend. But these two guys, they could easily do the comedy that they've mastered. They could easily do more, 30 Spider-Man a year and I'd be there. But to do something that is the awe of Kubrick, the wonder and whimsy of Spielberg, the focus and intensity of Interstellar meets the technical prowess of Gravity, to blend all of our modern sci-fi and to add humanity to it, to up the humanity by making this the story and to flex their directing muscles. There are so many, we'll talk Greg Fraser in a second, but there's so many shots in this and there's so many chances for it to not work exactly perfect. I mentioned the third act before. This second viewing, I was watching for the things that plant for the third act. That is just masterful tone management. Like, this is impeccable. Before we talk Greg Fraser, tone management, Drew Goddard. Drew Goddard has given me the insanity of Lost and Buffy and Angel, that era of nerddom. He changed nerddom with Cloverfield. He then changed it again with World War Z. And then he gave me one of my favorite Marvel adaptations ever in creating and then writing Netflix's Daredevil. The dude could stop right now and he'd be one of my favorite writers. What he does here with balancing tone and allowing for Gosling's style of comedy with Lord and Miller's style of comedy, with the drama you need to not feel like they're fighting each other, with all of the earnest humanity, and then you blend his writing, which is masterful, with Daniel Pemberton, who's writing a character almost. There is so much of Rocky that is in that score. There is so much of Ryland that is in that score. The Daniel Pemberton score, who also scored the Spider-Verse film, is so alive. And I think a lot of the Spielberg is that life of the whimsy of what he's bringing here. So Daniel Pemberton is one of the leads of the film, in my opinion. Neil Scanlon is the man who has brought us so many of your favorite visual effects. Neil Scanlon is responsible for so much of the tangible beauty and things that feel like they're impossible to make. He is a genius. I think that, again, we're going to talk Greg Fraser next. If Greg Fraser is the next Deakins, I'd say Neil Scanlon is the next Stan Winston. And what we get with this team coming together is insane. Let's talk Greg Fraser. I would argue that Roger Deakins, up until recently, was the only DP that no matter what they did, I'd see it, whether I knew the director or the actor. Like, it's a Greg Fraser ride now, like Deakins. Like, if Greg Fraser's attached to something, thanks to Dune, thanks to the Batman, I am seeing it. And what he does here with changing the way you perceive the world, literally, and also metaphorically, is so powerful, because it can go so wrong so easily. Dutch angles get messed up a lot. You can mess up a lot easier than you can do it right. And then you've got the combination of literally changing your worldview and that being an emotional connection to what you're experiencing for your lead, but also changing your aspect ratio. So your aspect ratio changing is something that is so hard to not feel cheesy. It's so hard to not be distracting. A lot of times filmmakers use it as a emotional tool, and it doesn't quite land. Oppenheimer did it very well, but they also had the benefit of black and white as well as the aspect ratio. Here, what Greg Fraser, Lord and Miller do is they have our present, our space experience be huge. And so that gives you the awe of space, that gives you the scope of space, but then the memories are in a traditional 16:9 aspect ratio, and the memories would be a different feeling. They would feel maybe smaller. Like, I love just the subconscious element of that, but there are moments in the film that bleed, that grow, that expand into, and there's some grain in there. And apparently they physically shot the film to allow for some of that lens flare and breathe through. I don't know how it worked. I'm not that guy. I will learn. But Greg Fraser gave us such a cool visual language to this film. I see space differently. I see the emotional connection differently. I see, because of this work, humanity a little differently. And I just want to thank Lord, Miller, Scanlon, Fraser, Pemberton, Goddard, Weir, Gosling, Hüller, everyone, for a film that is not easy to quantify, a film that is hard to articulate. Like, I've been talking for 20 minutes, but it's so full of awe that it's hard to quantify. It's so full of wonder, it feels saccharine. It's so full of humor, it feels like it's a comedy, but it's also so full of drama. It feels like life. This movie really hit me in a way that I knew I'd love it, but I didn't think walking out of a second viewing I could feel that rebirth, that sense of like just appreciation to be alive. This movie makes me appreciate life and thriving, and I hope everyone that sees it gets this feeling, but also like fights a little more for the betterment of mankind, that thinks a little harder, that wants better for themselves and others. And fuck, I love when art can do that, man. Project Hail Mary, it moved me. If you couldn't tell, it's really special to me. If you couldn't tell, I would love to know what you thought of it. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of Project Hail Mary. Like, comment, do all the YouTube stuff. I didn't even say it at the beginning because I wanted to just talk about this movie, but I'm a different man for it. Oh, and personal moment. My cat, Spidey-Cat, he passed away in between a few important it was right after New Year's, and I'd seen a lot of this film, right? I'd seen CinemaCon, I'd seen Hall H, I then had seen, right before he passed, about 40 minutes of this film with Lord and Miller, directors commentating, pausing, and going through it. I'd seen a lot of this movie, and I never considered how much that relationship was going to break me after he passed. Like, he passed away in between, and I didn't mentally prepare for that pain, that specific pain. But there's something really wonderful about the relationship where, like, physically, Spidey reminds me of Rocky. Like, he'd do this little back bend to get deeper pets, and he'd headbutt to get nuzzles and things that Rocky does. And so, like, obviously that relationship reminds me of him, but physically it reminded me of him. And when I clocked it about 10 minutes into meeting Rocky, I was like, oh, I might have to leave. Like, I might not be able to fairly appreciate this film. I might not be able to watch it right now and honor it. But then the movie is so full of wonder and hope and positivity, it's actually started reframing how I'm coping. Like, it's actually helping me see those memories as positive, and it's helping me, all my memories of him are so loving and positive, but it's been so painful. And there's such beauty in this that, like, it's helping me navigate it. So without giving anything away about their relationship, it's helping me through like a hard time in my real life. So art abstractly should make us better. Art specifically is making me better. And what more could you hope for? So I also love that, like, Lord and Miller still somehow tie into Spidey, right? Like, the first person I talked to after Spidey passed away at a premiere was Destin Daniel Cretton about Spider-Man, and I was like, Spidey sent me Spidey. The first person that helped me with the grief was Andrew Garfield. Talking about losing his mom was the first person where the words he was saying actually helped me. Spidey sent me Spidey. And now the first movie that's helping with a relationship and a bond is guys that brought me an incredible Spidey. So Spidey is forever sending me Spideys to help me through him not being here. So fuck yeah to this movie. Project Hail Mary, comment, like, do the stuff. I appreciate you. Go see this movie. Support good art. Fuck yeah.